2020 has turned me into the Joker. It started with the global pandemic that led to the cancellation of the Magic Railway Show, a project that I poured my heart and soul into. Then there was the subsequent cancellation of every train show in the country. I haven't seen my friends all year. And now we find out that Thomas and Friends as a franchise is getting rebooted into a baby show, a cartoon, a complete bastardization of the source material. There was an article posted on Soto Island forums a few days ago that articulated all of the changes that are coming next year to Thomas and Friends. And when I read it, something snapped in my brain and I became the Joker. And maybe you'll become the Joker too after you hear about this, because it's not enough. I'm not going to just describe it to you. I'm going to walk you through what I had to endure. So come with me as we dance down the stairs of madness and look into the Thomas and Friends 2021 reboot. Come on, let's go. We live in a tank engine society. Okay, so let's begin with this article written by professional Thomas fan Ryan Hagan, who sat in during a business call with Mattel. And this is the insider information that we now have on this reboot. So if you haven't seen it, this is what Thomas looks like now. Let's begin. As we're all aware by now, I guess I should read this in a Scottish accent. As we're all aware by now, Thomas and Friends is due to undergo a massive reboot and retooling of the brand's aesthetic and continuity. A 2D cartoon, which is due to launch next year with a 104-episode deal with Nelvana. On Sunday, the 22nd of November, courtesy of a friend, I attended a conference call through the whatever conference where details of the new series were outlined, where one of the directors of the new series for Nelvana was being interviewed. The individual revealed that Mattel had approached Nelvana to come on board as a production partner for the series, and said that they wanted to reboot the series and try something that's different. Yeah, they definitely did. Now here's a quote. "We can't stay too far from what's been established. We can do new things with these trains, but what we can do that's different while maintaining Thomas, who he is. Mattel said, we don't want to use wheels as hands, thank God, but we are allowed to be more cartoony, stretchy. They can pop the trains off the tracks and jump to turn 360. So we're definitely not locked to the track." I believe a few years ago, Ian McHugh specifically said that we would never stoop to Chuggington levels. Well, here we are. We have officially reached Chuggington levels. So whilst Big World Big Adventures may have taken Thomas on some wild adventures and had him doing some crazy stunts, it's going to be a lot more outlandish here. When asked if the new production team was intending to skew more toward a younger audience, they are, Mr. Breyer told the moderator that Nelvana was hoping to reach a broader audience through their new approach to the series, commenting that, "With the quiet, slow nature of the original show, it appealed to a younger audience. Our version is, I don't want to say wacky, but a bit more stretchy, toony." No. It's amazing. Every single word you just said was wrong. Thomas didn't appeal to a younger audience. It appealed to everyone. The slow, quiet, beautiful aesthetic of Thomas and Friends is what made it so timeless and so lovable and so appealing to generations. Anyone can watch a classic Thomas episode and get something out of it. Children can enjoy it, teenagers, adults, and the elderly can all uniquely appreciate something about Thomas and Friends. Look at this quote from the Reverend Audrey when he wrote his stories. You're not just writing for yourself, you're writing for the poor, unfortunate souls that have to read the stories over and over again. That's what Audrey believed in. Audrey believed in quality storytelling that could supersede generations. Not this crap, this regurgitated baby crap that's only for babies, that's not accessible to anyone else, that has no value to anyone else. God, we live in a society. God, we live in a society. A tank engine society. On the subject of the engines and the world they now inhabit, Thomas isn't likely to be going around the world anymore. He'll be right at home on the island of Sodor. However, it won't be the Sodor we've come to know. The core group of trains come across more as kids in the new show. World of the island of Sodor becomes a giant playground for them. Now here is the worst quote in the whole article, and I hope you've got your rope ready because you're going to want to hang yourself after you hear this. As I remember the original property, Thomas was a coming-of-age character, not a child, but a recent graduate of the train program, coming to Train Central to make his mark in the world of trains. Well, clearly you don't remember the original property because that has nothing to do with Thomas whatsoever. He was not going to train school to graduate to train college or whatever. He was a station pilot at the big station. He moved coaches for the bigger engines, and then one day he got his own branch line after an act of heroism. That's Thomas's backstory, and you should know that if you're working on the show. I don't understand. The people that are working on the show today, and this has been true for a while now, have no idea what Thomas is. The only people that ever understood what Thomas truly is were 1, Wilbert Audrey, 2, David Mitten, 3, Andrew Brenner, and 4, me. There wasn't much of a playful nature to Thomas. He was all about towing the line, living up to the other trains. Part of the transition is we're allowed to play a little more. It seems like a much bigger world. The island is a bigger playground. Much less involvement with the older trains. Well, I guess Duke really is never coming back. More about Thomas's core group of friends, playing. No formal details have been given on who Thomas's core group of friends or playmates are going to be in the upcoming reboot. However, from what one can glean, expect to see more of the younger characters from the series and to shy away from older, maturer influences who may not lend themselves well to the storytelling that Mattel and Nelvana want to put across blah 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 blah. Yeah, so the new reboot is a cartoon about Thomas and basically like Percy, probably Nia, and I don't know, maybe James or somebody playing. Just playing. There's no railway realism. There's no Britishness. Oh, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. Just you wait. We'll get to that in a minute. Mattel's brand is that they're the guardians of Thomas's legacy. So we told them to let us know what we can and can't do. With a 3D show, despite being 3D, I don't know why I'm reading this in a British accent because I'm like 99% sure the new show is being run by Americans. Sometimes we'd pitch things and they'd say, that wouldn't work on a toy track, so we wouldn't do it. We were really given the freedom to try something new. Basically, do what you want and we'll tell you if you're going too far. I may have gone too far in a few places. Besides the trains themselves, the island itself plays a huge part, and I can't speak highly enough of our design team that's come up with this beautiful environment. Now, this is a punch in the face right here. The island of Sodor was originally off the coast of England. That's not really important. It's not part of the story. It's an island, separate from everywhere else. Every town, every city is connected by rail. The island is very diverse. You have desert canyons, lush countrysides, seaside towns, industrial mining towns. And Hagen says, from what I can interpret here, Sodor is going to become an every island from here on out, abandoning the quintessential British tone and setting, which has been the aesthetic of the series since 1945. I need a cigarette. In the art direction, that's really where we've been able to push in new directions. The island is a playground for these kids. It's a real toony show, lots of stretch and squash. Now this part is great. The trains are the characters. They're not driven by humans. This might be the first time. Even though they weren't a big deal in the show, they always had an engineer. This really made me happy that nobody needs to drive the train engine. If there are runaway mine carts coming at the train, Thomas doesn't need a driver to make him jump or flip over the mine cars. The exception is Sir Topham Hatt, of course. Mine carts. They are calling freight cars mine carts. Mine carts. These people have never seen Thomas in their lives. We really do live in a society. Oh my God, I'm crying. More about Sir Topham Hatt. He's kind of the chief of train operations, but we don't even specify that. He's a comedic foil. In our version, he's really flustered and all over the place. He's really the only human character who interacts with the trains, not even that regularly. Of course, there's no narrator. I mean, that's a given. There hasn't been a narrator for the show for a few years now, but of course they're throwing that away too. They don't even know where it's going to air. It's not going to be on Nickelodeon. They don't know if Netflix is going to pick it up. So that's cool. So it's the same problem as there ever has been. And really, I don't need to read the rest of this article because I have enough to say. The problem with Thomas and Friends, since Mattel took ownership of the company, has never been the show. The show has been fine. When Andrew Brenner and his team took over the show in season 17, they took a show that worked but was very boring and turned it into a show that worked but was extremely entertaining on all levels. They made the show classic again. They made the show watchable again. They fixed the problems. They put everything right. And increasingly in recent years, Mattel has lowered the quality of the merchandise. The most important thing that has kept this franchise afloat for so many decades has been the toys. Look at what's behind me. There are people like me, crazy people, who buy Thomas merchandise. But what Mattel does is they cheapen the merchandise. The merchandise does not sell as well. And they conclude, oh, well, it's not selling as well. We got to cheapen it some more. So they make it cheaper. And no one buys it. So they make it cheaper. And no one buys it. And no one buys it. They also don't air the show. Has season 20 or 21 ever aired on television? Because I watched it on YouTube. Go to YouTube. You're on YouTube, but go to YouTube. Go to the YouTube. And the only way to watch these episodes are from illegal uploads. Because they were recorded at 2 o'clock in the morning, airing in Croatia or some country. That's how the show gets distributed, by people that upload it when it airs in other countries, because it doesn't air here. They didn't even release the Big World, Big Adventures movie on DVD until a year after it came out. That is ridiculous. The Reboot before this reboot, the other reboot, their big flagship movie for that reboot, and they just don't release it. Distribution, communication, poor quality merchandise. Those have been the plaguing issues with the Thomas & Friends brand for the past 6 years. It was never the show. But they refuse to comprehend this. They are such greedy, arrogant fools at Mattel. They refuse to understand this. They either are too stupid to comprehend it, or they just don't care. Because I'm convinced you couldn't run a company this badly if you tried. It is profound arrogance on someone's part that a 75-year-old franchise is in such a state of disrepair. It was not the show. It was never about the show. If the toys were good, people would buy them. If the show was aired, people would watch it. But they don't air the show, they release horrible toys, or they just don't make toys. There are so many characters in Big World, Big Adventure, 95% of which have no merchandise at all. I would pay a lot of money for some of these characters. They look pretty cool. They're interesting. They have unique designs, but they don't sell any toys of them. And then weirdly, they don't make money. And then they blame the show. Andrew Brenner's gone. He moved on to another show, and God bless him. Andrew Brenner, I know you're not watching this, but I'm sure that Sean's Models sent this video to Mattel to prove that I'm a bad person. So Mattel, if you are watching this, Ian McHugh, if you're watching this, whoever's watching this, I want you to know the show was fine. It wasn't broken. So why did you fix it? The toys are broken. The distribution is broken. The communication between the different distributors was broken. That's what you could have fixed. Instead, you ruined a good thing. And you turned me into the Joker. This whole thing is just a big joke. In fact, I just thought of another joke. Do you want to hear it?